Now, you might also be wondering how living things generally maintain this homeostatic condition of theirs. And this usually involves negative feedback loops. So let me draw this diagram for us. We have our stimulus, we have a detection, and then a response. So in negative feedback, a stimulus or a detectable change in internal conditions triggers the body to carry out a response that will counteract or oppose this change. So it'll bring conditions back within an ideal range. And this is what is represented right here by this blocking symbol in the diagram. So going back to my family's hiking trip, we can say that the stimulus was the increase in our body temperatures as a result of hiking in the hot desert. Our bodies detected that our internal temperature was moving outside of the acceptable range, which typically falls between 97.7 to 99.5 degrees Fahrenheit or 36.5 to 37.5 degrees Celsius. And the cool thing is that once our bodies detected the stimulus, they produced a response to counteract this change through negative feedback. We were hot, so we wanted to become less hot. And in this case, the negative feedback loop caused responses like sweating that helped cool our body temperatures down to the acceptable or the ideal range. It's also worth noting that our bodies can elicit negative feedback mechanisms in response to our body temperature dropping too low. So if our body temperature drops below the ideal range, or our body temperature decreases, then the body counteracts this change through responses like shivering and blood vessel constriction, all with the goal of helping to keep us warm. So negative feedback mechanisms help cool us down when we get too hot, or they warm us up when we get too cold, so they help to keep our body temperatures just right. And this process of maintaining body temperature, otherwise known as thermoregulation, let me write that out for us, it can be seen in all different kinds of organisms. You might have seen dogs pant when they are hot, or spotted lizards sunbathing to stay warm. And these are all homeostatic responses that help keep the organism's body temperature within the acceptable range that we talked about. Another really awesome example of a negative feedback loop is osmoregulation, specifically in salmon. And here's a picture. Now, salmon spend part of their lives in freshwater streams and the other part of their lives in saltwater oceans. So in freshwater, the salt concentration of the water is lower than the salt concentration you would find in the fish's internal body fluids, while in saltwater, the salt concentration of the water is higher than the fish's internal salt concentration. So this means that in freshwater, the fish will tend to absorb water and lose salts through their skin, while the opposite is true in saltwater. Any large change in a fish's internal salt or water levels could be fatal. So how exactly can salmon tolerate these extremely different environmental conditions? Well, they also use negative feedback mechanisms. So salmon have a negative feedback system which detects changes in internal salt concentrations and causes a response that involves either taking up or excreting salt through the gills or having more or less dilute urine in order to reestablish ideal internal salt concentrations. And this is otherwise known as osmoregulation. So again, we have a feedback loop that acts to oppose the stimulus, which in this case is the change in internal salt concentrations.